Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of the Classical Republican. Today, I'm in my backyard. Over one shoulder is the flag of the Republic. Over my other shoulder is a 40-year-old grapevine that still gives grapes to me and my family. Maybe I should do a video on gardening. That's classically Republican, oh yeah. But today's video is going to be on Aurelio Lippo Brandolini's Republics and Kingdoms Compared. So once again, that's the Itati Renaissance Library, bringing obscure Latin text into the modern world with an English translation. Yeah, let me eat some grapes that are from the grapevine. Okay, so let me begin by telling you that Republics and Kingdoms Compared is about it's a dialogue that takes place in it's a fictional dialogue that takes place in the late 1400s, and there are two characters at this point. I'm going to be reading in book one. You have Domenico, who is a Florentine, and so he is representing republics, but more so the Florentine Republic. Then you have Matthias, who is the king of Hungary, and so he is representing the monarchy, and he's really representing a really idealized monarchy, kind of what Aristotle was talking about when he was talking about his ideal regime, and that was the righteous monarch. And so we're kind of on some unfair ground here, because you have the righteous monarch, and Matthias was an actual person, and he was a good king, and Brandolini was writing this for his son, so that hopefully he would take notice of it and maybe give him a position in his court. So we're going to read in book one, which is about liberty. And so when the Florentines are talking about liberty, they're talking about their mixed regime, which, because you have the mixed regime, you are, that helps you to provide freedom and liberty, because you are not dominated by any one institution. So here we go. I'm starting on page 59. Matthias is speaking. So you differ only minimally from us in the nature of your servitude, since though mutually subject and mutually in command, you certainly don't differ as to the fact of servitude. Domenico. We are indeed mutually subject to ourselves, as you say, king, but either we are not sensible of that servitude because of the regular alternation or succession of rule, what seems likelier. We tolerate it more willingly. Matthias. Come now, since you're not free with respect to taxes, in what respect, pray, are you free? Domenico. We are surely extremely free in the administration of the Republic. Matthias. How so? Domenico. What a question! We ourselves choose all our magistrates, and we ourselves fill those magistracies. We ourselves administer the city and the town subject to our rule. Our Senate, that is, the free council of the people, meets daily. In it we debate on public affairs, giving our opinions freely. By its advice and authority we undertake wars, make treaties, agree on peace, pass legislation, and in short administer all public affairs. Does it not seem to you that this constitutes the greatest and truest liberty? Can any greater liberty be imagined? Your cities, by contrast, are stripped of all public deliberation, of all judicial and administrative power. They depend entirely on you. They dance attendance on your counsel and help. And having lost all liberty, they must tolerate your power, of whatever kind it is. Surely they are living in perpetual servitude. You administer everything through governors and deputies. I won't say how they generally go about their business, but this I do say, all of your cities suffer a multifarious kind of servitude. Matthias. We shall presently look to see whether this is true or not. Let us now discuss, with greater care, the sort of liberty you have that you boast of so much. How then do you choose your magistrates? Dominico. We choose them by lot. Matthias. What kind of lot? Dominico. We have urns for all the magistracies in which the names of citizens are put. When the time approaches for elections, the names are drawn by lot. Matthias. How are the names of citizens placed in these urns? Dominico. At fixed times, when the urns look to be empty, several citizens who are judged to be excellent men by the Senate are put in charge of replenishing the urns, and we call this, using a modern word, a scrutiny. The citizens I just mentioned place into the urns the names of those who seem suitable to hold magistracies either at that moment or shortly thereafter. Matthias. So it's by the judgment of the selectors that citizens are reckoned worthy of holding magistracies. Dominico. What of it? Matthias. What if they are motivated in the usual way by hatred or love or other passions to admit or reject someone? Dominico. They would never do that if they were good citizens. Matthias. Yet good citizens cannot always be found. Dominico. The best citizens of the highest integrity can surely be chosen. Matthias. Which, in the end, do you reckon will be easier and more conducive to liberty? To seek integrity in one person or in many? Dominico. In one, certainly, but as it's easier to influence one person than many, it's also easier to corrupt one person than many. Matthias. All the same, do you think it's easier to find one excellent person or many? Dominico. One, of course. Matthias. Will it then be preferable to look for such a choice from a single king, who, owing to his superior power, feels neither hatred nor envy nor excessive benevolence towards his subjects, or from many citizens who, owing to their rivalries and equality of status, their family connections and intermarriages, cannot be free of those passions? Dominico. I confess that a single person would be preferable, whoever he might be, so long as he was an excellent man of the highest integrity. Matthias. As I see it, therefore, your elections are not free, but subject in part to fortune and in part to favor, unless, perhaps, you would call the luck of the draw and the exercise of influence over citizens liberty? Dominico. That is so. We do indeed call free something that can happen to anyone. Matthias. And it's your judgment that you are right to do so? Dominico. It's not right, certainly, as I now see, but the judgment of the people, of the common people, is not easy to change. Matthias. Nevertheless, we shall grant you that your elections are free. Tell me, please, can anyone at all who is chosen by lot in this way hold office? Dominico. He can't. Matthias. What prevents them? Dominico. Many things: age, absence, unpaid taxes, having recently held a magistracy. For some magistracies cannot be held jointly or only after a fixed interval of time, so that there's room for everyone in public affairs, and so that everything doesn't appear to be put into the hands of a single person. There are also many other impediments to office holding. Matthias. What's the point of having gotten into the urns with so much effort if it's not allowable to make use of the benefits of fortune? I don't condemn the rest of the impediments, but poverty ought not to prevent a good citizen from taking part in public affairs if he can't pay the taxes imposed on him. Dominico. It's necessary that this be done to keep equality of status and harmony in the Republic. Matthias. But this kind of equality, in my judgment, is great and unjust servitude. But if it's not licit for good citizens to take part in public affairs because of debt, that is, because of their poverty, Either they are made into the slaves of the rich or the great detriment of liberty and the republic, or it's necessary to enrich them in some way, ignominiously for them. You yourself can judge which course is less expedient for the republic. Dominico. Certainly, neither one is expedient, yet these things are done for the reasons I've stated. Dominico. Let's do that. Oh, I skipped a line here. Matthias. Enough about elections. Let's take a look, if you please, at what liberty there is in these magistracies. Dominico. Let's do that. Matthias. What is the highest magistracy in your republic? Dominico. The 9, whom we call the Lord Signori in the common tongue. Matthias. This one word is enough to show that the rest of the citizens are their servants or slaves, for there can be no lord without a servant, as there cannot be a son without a father, or a husband without a wife, or a father-in-law without a son-in-law. Words like these are called by logicians correlative terms. Dominico. But by that token, practically all the citizens are lords, since the magistracy only lasts 2 months and is open to all. Matthias. Indeed, by this reasoning, all are servants, for they return to private life, i.e. servitude, before they get to know the magistracy, i.e. liberty. But let's take a look at how they lord it, how free they are in that magistracy. Do they have supreme power over everything in that magistracy? Dominico. They do indeed, but owing to the brevity of that office, I think another magistracy of 8 men was established, to whom all the gravest matters are referred, as their magistracy is longer. Matthias. So this is the highest magistracy, not the 9. Dominico. But the 8 do not possess with the pomp of lictors and musical instruments, and do not dwell in the public buildings, which we call the palazzo in the common tongue, at public expense, while all these privileges are bestowed upon the higher magistracy. Matthias. So the higher magistracy remains continuously in the palace. Dominico. They do, and they live in great luxury and honor at public expense. Matthias. None of them is allowed to leave the building while they hold the magistracy? Dominico. No, unless they leave for a public occasion with their colleagues, and all pomp. Matthias. So, can you call these men even partly free, let alone lords, who not only do not have supreme power in the republic, but can't even set foot outside the palace while holding their magistracy? In my view, this is servitude in the truest sense. Indeed, it's more of a prison than a magistracy. The other magistracy that lacks the pomp and deliberates about the highest public affairs looks more like the supreme magistracy to me. Dominico. But it doesn't have unconstrained power over affairs either, for there are various magistracies in the republic that divide power among themselves, so that all have some power, but no one of them absolute power, lest it appear that someone has preeminence and another is subject, and all the citizens, as far as possible, take some part in public administration. If I could explain to you the powers, order, and interconnection of each magistracy, I think you would take great pleasure in our form of government. Matthias. I have certainly enjoyed what you have already said, Dominico, and I would like to learn about them all individually when I have the time. But I see that the result of this division of power is that no magistrate is free. For while each depends on another, they are individually made weaker in themselves. Dominico. That is so. Matthias. But if single magistracies have little power, how much power can the individual citizens in those magistracies have? Dominico. much less. Matthias. So where then is this liberty of yours that you have praised so much? Domenico. It is contained not in individual citizens or individual magistracies, but in the whole body of the Republic. Matthias. Can the totality have what no individual among them has? But I think we have shown sufficiently that there is no liberty such as you have described in your magistracies. Let us see now whether it exists in that Senate which seems to encompass the whole Republic. Come then, does that Senate, which you have called the Free Council of the People, deliberate about the highest public business freely and without constraint, or does it have some magistracy to which it refers its counsels? Domenico. It does have one, indeed many, depending on the nature of the business, which discusses with greater precision and care the subjects dealt with in the Senate. For not all matters come before the Senate, nor are decisions made on all matters that do come before it. But when those matters have been heard and advice given, they are thrown back to the various magistracies. Matthias. First, let me ask you why all public business does not come before the Senate, then why the matters that do come there are not concluded there. Domenico. Certain matters the Senate does not hear, as they seem to be beneath its dignity. Others, which require great scarcity, or great secrecy, or great speed, are advisedly turned over to a few men who can conceal secrets and great trustworthiness, and be assembled more easily when need be. These men, however, come from the number of those who are in the Senate. The Senate does not conclude all business on which it is consulted, partly because of the quantity of business, partly owing to its gravity. All business is better discussed by those whose proper task it is than by the full Senate. Matthias. I do not question whether they do it better. I question what power and liberty they can have who can neither take cognizance of everything nor can decide as free agents what they do take cognizance of, and who have some magistrate over them who makes decisions on the matters they've discussed and debated, to whom they make appeal. But let's look to see what liberty there is, in the end, in giving of views, but by what method is the Senate consulted on matters brought before it? Domenico. A matter is proposed for consultation by a magistrate or an official, and everyone is asked to approve or reject it on a show of votes. Matthias. What exactly are these votes, and how are different views expressed? Domenico. Different republics use different methods. We use black and white beans. Someone who thinks the proposal should be approved throws a black bean in an urn which is circulated for the purpose. Someone opposed throws a white bean in. Matthias. Can someone express his thoughts correctly with beans? What if someone agrees or disagrees for a different reason, as commonly happens? Is it not a matter of great importance for both sides what reason is given for approving or rejecting some proposal? Domenico. It is, but this method is more suited to brevity. It's impossible to listen to everyone's views. Matthias. But they could listen to some views, especially the views of those with the greatest practical wisdom. Domenico. This too is done sometimes, but it's quite rare, for when they can't get approval, and the magistrate wants to obtain approval for some reason, he asks those who have rejected it to step into the pulpit. That's the place for giving opinions and explain their view to the Senate. Matthias. What if they can't get approval this way? Domenico. The magistrate proposes the motion a second and third time and asks the citizens if they want to agree with it. If it's not approved, even so, it's put off to another time, In the meantime, the magistrate brings the dissenting citizens over to his view in whatever way he can. Matthias. That's compulsion, not consultation. If something that a magistrate has decided is going to be approved by the Senate in any event, Domenico. But this, as I've said, happens very rarely. Matthias. What if the matter being considered has several parts or stipulations, and different persons accept or reject different parts, as usually happens? How can opinions about individual parts be expressed through bean counting? Domenico. The magistrate divides up the different opinions, if he can, and takes a vote on them individually. If this is impossible, because a single opinion may contain different stipulations, everyone is free either to give his opinion or to support whichever of the two parties he likes in his view. Matthias. I see from what you've said that citizens are sometimes forced to say things they don't want to say, and sometimes be silent about things they do want to say. But let me ask you about the nub of the matter. Does everyone have a free vote? Domenico. Extremely free. Matthias. Are the beans thrown into the urn openly or secretly? Domenico. Secretly. Matthias. Why so? Domenico. So that the opinion may be expressed, its author hidden. Matthias. Then the citizens don't dare express what they think, if they want to stay hidden. Domenico. They do dare, but they wish to avoid odium and malevolence. Matthias. Must someone go in fear of the hatred, hostility, and odium of individual citizens for the sake of the Republic? Shouldn't a good citizen put love of country ahead of his own passions and consider all his own interests of lesser value? What if he holds the correct view? Must he hide it even so? Domenico. He must, so that those with different views are not revealed. Matthias. Thus a good man will lose all influence so that a bad man may not be known. And since the opinions of both are equally hidden, the good man will come under suspicion exactly like the bad one. By this method, the good man will not receive his due reward, and the bad man his due punishment. But if it is not allowed to express freely what you think, how can there be freedom in voting, pray tell? Domenico. On the contrary, it's precisely for this reason that we consider our voting to be extremely free. Everyone is free to hold whatever views he wants without fear or suspicion. Though fear and suspicion should not be made much of, for the sake of the Republic, they should be deflected when they can, in case they lead to dissension and faction in the Republic. Matthias. On the contrary, so long as you defraud the good of their rewards, while tolerating and nurturing the evil and destructive citizens of the Republic, you will be inciting still greater factions, in my judgment. What plague could be greater, what faction more pernicious than a situation where evil men can hold whatever opinion they want with impunity? Good men cannot hold opinions without exciting suspicion, when no difference is made between them, and the former are allowed to hide their outrageous views, while the latter cannot bring their good deeds into the open. Hence, what you call free voting, I call the highest and most unjust servitude. But enough about voting. Okay, and that's where we'll stop today from Brandolini's Republics and Kingdoms Compared. So you see that you have you have Matthias, who is a very good king. Historically, he was a very good king, and but he's kind of the idealized king that is rare in most circumstances. And you have all the ugly warts of Florentine republicanism at the time. One thing that's not included in there is the domination of the Republic by the Medicis. So that's all left out too. But yeah, so they weren't really a true republic until after the Medicis were kicked out several decades later in 1494, and If you want to know more about that, you can see my Machiavelli series. Go into a little bit about the Florentine Republic. All right, that's all I have today. Long live the Republic.